You really want to be a virtual assistant. So we're going to look at 3 different types of virtual assistants based on their schedules. And welcome to the business of being a virtual assistant. I'm your host, Tiffany Parson, and you're watching and listening to episode number 286. Welcome back if you're a returning listener and viewer. And welcome if this is your very first time. This is where we talk about the real side of being a virtual assistant. Today, I want to talk to you. Basically, I want to ask you a question. Do you really want to be a virtual assistant? Many years ago, when I was in college, my goal going into college was to be a lawyer. I had been saying since I was a small child that I was going to go to law school, that I was going to be a lawyer. Where that idea came from, I don't know. It could be my mom was a juvenile probation officer back then, and I would sometimes, be in her office, get exposed to court, different things like that. So that may be where the idea came from. I have no idea. This is why we shouldn't ask little kids, what do you want to do when they grow up? Because you only know what you see. So my question to you today is, do you really want to be a virtual assistant? So when I graduated college, I had applied to different law schools, got waitlisted, and one of my mom's coworkers was an attorney. And at that time, a lot of attorneys were leaving the field. And so they recommended that I read this book called Do You Really Want to Be a Lawyer? And the book had all these different types of lawyers and explained what each one did and, gave you a picture of each one. And by the end of the book, I knew I did not want to be a lawyer. I was most interested in criminal law, but it wasn't a lot of money in criminal law. The money was in corporate law, and that wasn't exciting enough for me. It wasn't interesting. So I decided not to. So I want to come to you today and ask you, do you really want to be a virtual assistant? So we're going to look at 3 different types of virtual assistants based on their schedules. Just to give you a little peek into what it could look like as a virtual assistant. We're going to talk about full-time and part-time, deadline, and that's it. So full-time, part-time, deadline. And full-time and part-time are very similar. So really 2 types of schedules. One is based on you showing up every day or so many days at a certain time. For example, full-time looks like you may show up, need to be logged in, is showing up at 8:30 your time or 8:30 your client's time and be at your computer for the full day. Obviously, taking a break for lunch or what have you, but being accessible to them for the full day. That is full-time. That's really an employee. If your plan is to be an employee and not have a virtual assistant business, that's an employee. As a contractor, a client cannot tell you what time to show up and what time to leave. You are a contractor. Now, they can ask you if you are available to be at this meeting at such and such time. But if they're expecting you to be somewhere every single day at a certain hour, and you're in the United States, and this probably applies in Canada as well, I'm not sure about other countries, that's an employee. So if you have a client right now and the expectation is for you to be logged in at whatever time every day or 3 times out of the day, however it works if you're part-time, then you're an employee. And that means that you shouldn't be paying your own taxes, meaning you shouldn't be getting a 1099 form. You should be getting a W-2 form. They should be taking the taxes out. And I'm not sure what that verbiage is for Canada, but I'm in the United States. I'm not sure about other countries. But that means they should be taking care of the taxes and everything for you. There should be some other benefits for you as well. I can remember speaking with a potential client from Upwork, and they wanted me to be available for phone calls, but I would only be paid based on the phone calls itself. I wouldn't be paid for my availability. And that just didn't work for me, because if you want me to be available to answer the phone or live chat, whatever it is, you should pay for availability. And that's falls under employee if it's a set time. Now, if they say 3 hours out of the day and you get to pick your 3 hours, that's different. We're going to talk about that in a second. But this, you want to be very, very clear that clients are drawing the line between contract and employee. And some people are going to blur the lines because they want the benefit of a contractor. If you're a contractor, they're not having to pay taxes. They're not having to do anything regarding unemployment tax, federal, state, any of that stuff. They just pay you direct, and you handle all your business wise in regards to government stuff. But they're benefiting from you with the full-time hours. It shouldn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. And this could be the same for part-time. So that's full-time, part-time, where they tell you what time to show up for work and when to leave. All right. The other schedule, deadline specific. My absolute favorite is deadline specific. And I have done the full-time and the part-time. So this is how I can tell you deadline specific is my favorite, because it's based on your schedule. If you're a night owl, you're a morning person, midday person. If you're working full-time, working on it after work. If you have a part-time job and you're working on it after, or you like the weekends, it's based on your schedule. And this is definitely falls in line with being a contractor, because they're focused on having it done. If you're working on a month's worth of content, it needs to be done by whatever time you both determine is the time. If there are emails that need to be answered, they give you a time frame as to when they need to be answered by. And it may be something you do every single day. Maybe you are answering emails every day, but they say as long as they're answered, as long as the day's emails are answered by 5, we're good. Then that leaves you, flexibility. Deadline specific. If you are working a job, you should not take on any projects outside of deadline specific. If you want to work as a contractor where you set your schedule, you determine when, where, who, and what, deadline specific. Deadline specific. So the day in the life of a full-time, it's just like a full-time job. You worked a full-time job, you know what that looks like. The only difference is you're in your house at your computer, or you're traveling but you're at your computer the whole time. And I have done both, and it's not fun. It's not fun. If you left your corporate job for flexibility and to decide when, where, and what, then the full-time, part-time doesn't work. If you're doing it because, hey, I need the money, I need to do what I got to do, then go for it. What do you want your days to look like? Do you want someone to tell you when to come in and when to leave? Or do you want the flexibility of creating the day how you want it to look? It's all up to you. And if you're like, Tiffany, I'm just getting started, I have no idea, test it all out, taste it all and see, and then decide what works best for you. And situations change. Right now, deadline specific might be the thing, but maybe down the road, full-time may be the thing. It's completely up to you, but it's important that you have a view of all the different options. In the next series of this, Do You Really Want to Be a Virtual Assistant? We're going to break it down on what it looks like based on the category of virtual assistant. Thank you so much for watching and listening. You have a wonderful and fantastic day.